From Manila to the globe, this is World Newsfeed, bringing you the biggest stories shaping our times. Good morning, I'm Raine Musñgi. Let's dive into the headlines making a global impact. Talks to reach a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip resumed in Doha, Qatar, though with little expectation of substantive progress. Representatives from Qatar, Egypt, and the United States and Israel participated in the talks, while the Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement, or Hamas, did not send any representative for it. Both Israel and Egypt presented proposals concerning a ceasefire agreement. Israel proposed that Hamas release all detained individuals in return for Israel permitting Hamas members to safely leave the Gaza Strip. Israel also planned to use Sinwar's body as a bargaining chip. However, it was rejected by Hamas. The group has repeatedly emphasized that its stance remains unchanged. Israel must halt military operations and completely withdraw from the Gaza Strip. The U.S. State Department said it was deeply concerned by proposed legislation in Israel to ban the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East. Israeli leaders in January accused UNRWA staff of collaborating with Hamas militants in Gaza, leading some donors to suspend funding, although many of those decisions have since been reversed. The UN launched an investigation into Israel's accusations and dismissed 9 staff. UNRWA provides education, health, and aid to millions of Palestinians in Gaza, the West Bank, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. It has long had tense relations with Israel, but ties have deteriorated sharply since the start of the war in Gaza.
There's nobody that can replace them right now in the middle of the crisis. So we continue to urge the government of Israel to pause the implementation of this legislation. We urge them not to pass it at all. And we will consider next steps based on what happens in the days ahead.
Meanwhile, the Palestinian Emergency Service told the Associated Press Israeli tanks thrust deeper into 2 North Gaza towns and a historic refugee camp Monday, trapping around 100,000 civilians. The military said the operations were to eliminate regrouping Hamas militants. The Israeli military said soldiers captured around 100 suspected Hamas militants in a raid into Kamal Adwan Hospital in the Jabalia camp. Hamas and medics have denied any militant presence at the hospital. North Korea has sent about 10,000 troops to Russia to train and fight in Ukraine within the next several weeks. That's in a move that Western leaders say will intensify the almost 3-year war and jolt relations in the Indo-Pacific region. The Pentagon said Monday some of the North Korean soldiers have already moved closer to Ukraine and were believed to be heading for the Kursk border region, where Russia has been struggling to push back a Ukrainian incursion. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said he could confirm that North Korean troops have been sent to Russia and that North Korean military units have been deployed to the Kursk region.
Today, I can confirm that North Korean troops have been sent to Russia and that North Korean military units have been deployed to the Kursk region. The deployment of North Korean troops represents 1, a significant escalation in the DPRK's ongoing involvement in Russia's illegal war. 2, yet another breach of UN Security Council resolutions. And 3, a dangerous expansion of Russia's war. NATO calls on Russia and the DPRK to cease these actions immediately. The deepening military cooperation between Russia and North Korea is a threat to both the Indo-Pacific and Euro-Atlantic security. It undermines peace on the Korean peninsula and fuels the Russian war against Ukraine. But the deployment of North Korean troops to Kursk is also a sign of Putin's growing desperation. Over 600,000 Russian soldiers have been killed or wounded in Putin's war, and he is unable to sustain his assault on Ukraine without foreign support.
Chinese President Xi Jinping wants the country to focus on building the country into a powerhouse in culture by the year 2035. Xi made the statement while presiding over a group study session of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee. Xi underscored efforts to keep promoting China's cultural soft power and the influence of Chinese culture, and to promote restructuring of China's international publicity sector. He called for more active efforts to publicize China's views and Chinese culture and present China's image, also efforts to extensively launch international cultural exchange and cooperation in various forms. More news from here and around the globe in a moment. World Newsfeed will be back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Philippines is confident in the continuity of U.S. policies in the Asia-Pacific region after the U.S. presidential election. That's according to Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro on Friday, underlining that Philippine-U.S. ties would remain strong regardless of the outcome. Teodoro said the alliance between the two countries is anchored in shared security goals and a commitment to uphold international law, including the contested waters of the South China Sea. China's Defense and Foreign Ministries and the U.S. Embassy in Manila did not immediately respond to requests for comments on Teodoro's remarks, just as tensions are high in the South China Sea, where there are conflicting territorial claims between China and several Southeast Asian countries, such as the Philippines. These have often led to confrontations in the waterway, with China maintaining that its actions in the sea have been lawful and professional.
There is a pronounced aggressiveness of China's expansionist agenda here. But what we are doing now with the United States is to deter and to build up our joint capabilities, combined capabilities rather, to deter such an armed attack from occurring.
Now, as Chinese incursions continue in the West Philippine Sea, military drills are no longer just routine, but also necessary. Our Foreign Affairs editor, Jamela Alindogan, joins the Philippine Marines in Palawan, where local leaders are rallying behind the troops on Insight Weekly.
Here in the town of Aborlan in Palawan province, where we witnessed one of the key highlights of this year's Kamandag exercises. We saw how the Philippines and the United States have been working closely to boost the Philippines' coastal territorial defenses. And we saw that when they showcased amphibious exercises. We saw modern weaponry, a 25mm gun, there were missiles and javelins, and these are all amphibious exercises to target various ranges. All other exercises aim to produce more sophisticated, pro-simulated soldiers with, according to both countries, have the technical skills, awareness, abilities, and communication engagement, including artificial intelligence.
We're able to utilize basically all the assets, F-35, UV, attack helicopters, the LCACs, the raiding boats that we have.
The Philippines is at the center of a growing security flashpoint, and more than ever, its military considers such exercises like this one not just a priority, but also with utmost urgency. China continues to harass Philippine vessels in the West Philippine Sea, and the Marcos administration believes that it is critical to step up efforts to boost the country's defense capabilities. This year's exercises is wider in location, wider in range of exercises to beef up what they call interoperability among armed forces and to enhance territorial defense capabilities. We've spoken to the mayor of the town here who tell us They welcome the presence of the troops here. They say they better be safe than sorry. Jamala Alindogan, Insight.
And the final stretch of World Newsfeed comes next. Stay with us on BNC. Welcome back to World Newsfeed. Republican Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance says Russia is a U.S. adversary, but suggests it's counterproductive to approach Moscow as an enemy. The Ohio senator also said Donald Trump is committed to NATO, the transatlantic military alliance, seen as the bulwark preventing further Russian aggression in Europe, although the former president has pledged to finish the process they began under his administration of fundamentally reevaluating NATO's purpose and NATO's mission. Vance, in a series of television interviews that aired Sunday, 9 days before the election, made clear that Trump, if back in the White House, would press European members to spend more on defense and that their administration would work to quickly wind down Moscow's war in Ukraine that began in February 2022 when Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered troops across the border. Meanwhile, running mate Donald Trump says, or he told the National Faith Advisory Board on Monday that he feels the country is headed in the wrong direction. He also said that they are closer to a World War III right now than they've ever been, with between Russia and Ukraine and the Middle East all exploding. Moving on, thousands of protesters gathered on Monday outside the Georgian parliament after the country's president and opposition parties called for protests against the result of a Saturday election. They said the elections were rigged, and protesters took to the streets after country's president Salome Zurbichvili called for protests, saying she does not recognize the vote results in her address to the nation. The country's government and electoral commission have said the vote was free and fair, while election observers have said there were significant violations.
Georgian president said, and other leaders of political parties said, and I agree with this position, that the election is totally rigged, and it's robbed from Georgian citizens, and by Russian dream. It is not Georgian dream in reality. And because of this reason, we are here to protect our rights, our European perspective and equality and democracy.
Because my country is occupied by Russia, and I want to defend my country, and I want to protest the elections, which was totally unfair. It was fake. So I need to defend my freedom and my future, my European directions.
I think that we can show Europe leaders that we are here, and these elections are not our choice. We choose opposition, we choose coalition in our government, and we did not choose Georgian dream. It's not our choice.
The United States joined calls from election observers for a full investigation of all reports of election-related violations in Georgia.
More than 80% of the Georgian people want to see the country integrated into the EU and NATO. The Constitution of Georgia, proposed and backed by the current governing party, stipulates the pursuit of membership in these Euro-Atlantic institutions. All parties campaigned in support of this goal, but the governing party has adopted measures inconsistent with that course. The Georgian government can recommit to its democratic Euro-Atlantic trajectory by respecting the rule of law, addressing deficiencies in its electoral process, withdrawing and repealing anti-democratic legislation, and undertaking significant effort on outstanding EU accession reform recommendations. We have consistently urged the Georgian government this year to walk back its anti-democratic actions and return to its Euro-Atlantic path. We do not rule out further consequences if the Georgian government's direction does not change.
In other stories, dramatic drone footage from Morocco shows flooded palm trees and sand dunes in the Sahara Desert after a rare rainfall on October 24th. The aerial shots taken near the small southeastern village of Merzouga reveal significant flooding from downpours in a region that experienced over 200 millimeters of rain in 48 hours. Morocco's General Directorate of Meteorology noted an unusually unstable and humid September leading to flash floods. A recent OCHA report indicated that heavy rains have claimed more than 1,460 lives in neighboring countries, with such extreme events potentially increasing due to climate change. At the COP16 Summit, urgent talks on biodiversity and species conservation hit a deadlock, with scientists warning that time is running out to prevent a mass extinction event. Despite consensus on the urgency, leaders remain divided on funding responsibilities and binding targets, putting the future of countless species at risk. Environmental groups are calling for stronger commitments, noting that half of the world's wildlife populations could face extinction in the coming decades if drastic measures aren't taken immediately.
The question is, how are funds going to be distributed in a sectorial manner through issues like mangroves, forests, and with universities or investigators, or cooperation with regions or with local governments and communities to transform their realities that affect conservation on the front line.
In entertainment news now, Hollywood star Timothée Chalamet made an unexpected appearance at a New York lookalike contest, sending hundreds of fans into a frenzy. The actor joined doppelgangers at Washington Square Park, where fans cheered as he posed for photos. But the event took an unusual turn when police detained one contestant and organizers received a fine for an unpermitted costume contest. The city's authorities cited crowd control concerns, but fans were thrilled to catch a glimpse of the real Chalamet. And that's all for now. Thank you so much for joining us. Catch up with us again tomorrow at 10 when we bring you the world in 30 minutes only on World Newsfeed. Follow the Money comes next. Keep it here on the Billionaria News Channel, always on top.